Charlemont Select Board Chair as well, and Joan Livingston, a newly elected Select Board member from Buckland. So welcome to you all. So reorganization, the council always has its annual reorganization meeting in July. We usually form a nominating committee with to recommend a slate of officers, but with apologies from the Executive Director Linda Young Levy, this did not occur. But if it's okay with members, we'll reorganize by taking nominations from the floor. So according to Robert's rules, you don't need a second, you can nominate yourselves. Really weird, we have chair, vice chair, clerk, council appointment to the executive committee, two of those. So I think that, council appointment to Transportation Planning Board from West County, and council appointment to PBO from Central County. So I can list out who we have here, but anybody else who'd like to make nominations, you can. I'm happy to serve as chair again. Trevor McDaniel from Deerfield, also happy to step aside if anybody would like to do that as well. Vice chair, we have Greg Snedeker from Guild, and clerk Kevin Fox from Coleraine.
You just missed Greg's
I'm fine.
just enthusiastic response to the vice
Happy to switch with you if you want
I
to.
really like to be right underneath you.
All right.
Such a great job.
Clerk Kevin Fox from Coleraine. Then for council appointment to the executive committee with Kevin Fox from Coleraine, and also Roxanne Wingardner from Greenfield, and council appointment to transportation TBO from West County will be Heather Butler from Buckland, and council appointment TBO from Central County will be Steve Ellis from Montague.
And those last two will be 3-year appointments.
Thank you. So anyone would like to move that?
Move that slate. Second.
So moved.
Second, anybody else want to put their name in front of them? No. So,
Who
all those in
seconded?
favor, or do we need a roll call on this?
I believe
Roll call
we do.
vote, okay, sorry.
I didn't catch who
Oh,
seconded.
sorry.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. Ashfield.
Yes.
Buckland,
Yes.
Charlemont's not here. Coleraine,
Yes.
Deerfield,
Yes.
Irving,
Yes.
Gill.
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Leverett,
Yes.
Lyden,
Yes.
Montague,
Yes.
Northfield,
Yes.
Orange,
Aye.
Shelburne,
Yes.
Tewksbury,
Yes.
Sunderland,
Yes.
Wendell.
Yes.
This one says Bill Perlman. Jane?
Yes.
Okay, Jay
Yes.
and Emily.
Yes.
Okay. Slate passes with all in favor.
Great.
Congratulations.
I can 30 again. We enjoyed it very much. So let's see, council update. We have the FY 23 council meeting dates. So mark your calendars. The council will next meet on October 19th, 2023, when we'll begin discussing the FY 24 budget, and again on January 25th. When we will vote on the proposed budget, and the Junction State backup date for that meeting is February 1st. And the final meeting for FY, the final meeting is April 18th, 2024. So committee vacancies, currently have openings on the Finance and Personnel Committee. I know somebody had volunteered for a couple of these, and
I feel like Paul, you volunteered. What
You
did
did.
you volunteer for?
Finance, yes, that's what I thought. Thank you
Welcome.
very much.
Fabulous. Thanks, Paul.
I can-
So glad.
No, very happy to have you there. If anybody would like to also serve on personnel, we really did need.
Personal is super fun, right, Brian?
Fun group.
Yeah, right, Jane?
Yeah, good time. please join them if you can. It's a good way to get involved with the council and learn the operation for sure. So executive committee update, Kevin Fox.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Sorry I was late.
Great.
Hey, Kevin, screen. It's.
You can't hear me?
Pretty low.
Let me try my volume, see if that works.
Oh,
Alice.
oh, he's not coming out of the
He's
owl.
not. He's coming.
That's interesting.
How was that?
One
Wait a
second, hang on.
We got it, if the owl is working
Yep.
for the video, but not. Okay, try now, Kevin.
How's that? Testing.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you again. Good evening, and sorry I was a little bit late. So at our meetings this month, the monthly meetings, we have continued to engage in succession planning, which seems to be a theme with several longtime employees definitely leaving and others contemplate leaving. One of the first hurdles is Peggy Sloan, a 30-year planning director, is retiring in August. Andrea Woods, 17 years as chief procurement officer, will be retiring in December. And Linda has announced her intention to leave sometime in 2024. Is that calendar year or fiscal year?
Not happening, don't worry about it, move on.
Both.
Both, okay.
20, yeah.
And
Calendar.
we're also aware that there's other staff that are at least contemplating retirement, which is not unexpected. So this, to prepare for this, we've been working with Linda and staff to do, among other things, review and revise job descriptions, starting with the planning director position, which we're largely through, I believe, and as well as the deputy director position, which is a new position that Linda has begun and we've reviewed at least once. That position has been built into the FY24 budget, as you remember, and is expected to be advertised in late summer. The planning director position is expected to be posted sometime in July, so you better hurry up with that. We're almost done with July. We've also begun to review and possibly propose changes to the FERCog charter and possibly the enabling legislation to match the current roles and responsibility and structure of the FERCog as is today, which has been 30 years, created 30 years ago. The charter is currently a strong document and holds up after 25 years, but a refresh, particularly before our executive director leaves, is definitely warranted. For example, the charter gives oversight responsibility for the federal economic plan we prepared to the Franklin Regional Planning Board, and federal laws change the plan's name and require content and mandates that the FERCog Executive Committee hold this role. That's just one of the various things we'll be looking at. We also approved signing onto the recreational settlement agreement with hydropower owner First Light, along with the towns of Northfield, Gill, Irving, and Montague. The signed agreement was filed with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, otherwise known as FERC, on June 12th. In addition to First Light keeping all the recreational amenities that are currently offered, the agreement requires First Light to build, with a timeline for implementation, many new facilities that will enable the public to access and enjoy the Connecticut River. The committee voted to recommend financial support for the continuation of First Light relicensing work to allow the FERCog to apply for intervenor status with FERC, review and prepare comments on the environmental impact statements, and to prepare for the Mass 401 water quality certification process with Mass DEP, particularly to address erosion concerns. Additionally, we made appointments to the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, otherwise known as SEEDS Committee, and to the Franklin County Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. We learned about and voted to approve the SEEDS annual performance report as well. And again, back to the theme of succession planning and preparation for succession of senior staff. We've initiated what Linda has named FERCog 101 presentations from staff to better understand the goals and current projects of FERCog programs and challenges to achieving those goals, and the staff engaged in the work and the funding sources and use. An overview of the planning department we presented at tonight's council meeting is an example of the several that we've heard so far, and I think they've been very well received. So that's our update for this quarter, or this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Executive Director?
Let me start with three new things that weren't in the council updates. Number one, this morning, there was a rural schools legislative panel that was remarkably well attended, about 80 people in attendance. And the idea of this legislative panel was really to show that the rural schools omnibus bill will help rural schools, but will also help school districts across Massachusetts. And it was a powerful panel ending with a student from Gateway that just blew everyone's socks off.
Awesome.
That was amazing.
That's great.
Governor Healy has been out many, many times to Western Mass, including today, to announce the Farm Relief Fund. This is a fund, this is going to be a collaboration of the Healy administration with local philanthropic organizations to get farm relief directly to farmers as quickly as possible. If you would like to contribute to that fund, it is being managed by the United Way in Central Mass. So it's United Way CM/Farm Fund. And this will be a fund that will help our farmers in Western and Central Mass that were hurt by the flood, by our farmers that were hurt by the May 18th frost. But it will also be a fund that will help farmers from across Massachusetts, because what we experienced in May and last week is likely not the last time our farmers will be hurt by climate change. Related to last week's floods and rain, if you have not called MEMA and talked to MEMA about any municipal damage in your town, you have until tomorrow to get that information in. Will, I don't know if Holly has, but this would be where the Dugway is falling apart. You should call MEMA and tell them about that. We need to document $12.5 million of municipal damage in Massachusetts to get a federal declaration. And we are very close to that. If you have not called, you can, has anyone not called? Does anyone need Pat Carnival's cell phone number? Okay, everyone's done it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
413-250-1927. He said we can give it to anyone we want.
That kind of was.
Yeah.
That kind of-
He's deputy director at MEMA.
Good dude.
So those are my three new things. So let me quickly go over one item from each remaining topic in the council updates. First, we're doing a regional housing plan. We're doing that for two reasons. One, to inform our municipalities in the region of our desperate need for new housing. But we're also doing it to advocate at the state level to make sure that current housing programs and funding sources are recognizing the needs of rural municipalities, recognizing our economies of scale, and really changing their programs to acknowledge the urgency for new housing in Franklin County as they acknowledge it for the Boston area. Moving to community health, Phoebe is managing a new project about vaccine equity initiative, and it's a cool funding source that allows her to distribute money in a bunch of interesting ways. So she has worked with Atlas Farms to make sure that we have fresh food through mobile markets. Some money went to Age of Dementia Friendly, Franklin County. We're doing some summer camp scholarships, human service coordination in West County, leadership in science and technology training for immigrant girls, and marketing our microtransit service that is growing and expanding in Franklin County. In economic development, I hope you saw the picture of Jessica with the big check. The big check is now upstairs in our office, and it is another $500,000 from the Environmental Protection Agency to do brownfields assessment in all Franklin County towns. This will be in addition to the $3.5 million that we've received in EPA grants over the years that has been used to assessed 70 sites in 22 communities since we started getting these grants. So it's brownfields is the first step to redevelopment and is great funding.
Mhm.
Emergency preparedness, I am sorry to say that we have no update on the federal earmark for pagers or for police regionalization. We have submitted our work plans and budgets for both of those and haven't heard anything back from our federal funders. In shared municipal services, back to last week's flooding, Andrea has sent information to all highway superintendents about emergency procurement for storm damage repair. So if you have any questions about that, please call Andrea. She's also in the midst of getting all of your needs for next year's collective purchasing, salt bidding season. You need to get your estimates to her by mid-July, especially if there are any changes in your estimated salt needs. Water treatment chemicals will go out to bid this summer. Dog tags and licenses will come up in August. You'll receive a survey about that. So keep your eye out for all of those. Moving to transportation, Heather and I were just talking this under the category of It Takes a Village. Really a shout out to Heather and the town of Buckland and the transportation planners from the Franklin Regional Council of Governments and all levels of MassDOT, District 1, MassDOT Planning, and the chief engineer who really worked hard to help us get a local project prioritized for transportation improvement program funding, despite many hurdles where it was hard to keep going. It's really a testament to especially District 1 and their commitment to our towns. And Peggy is retiring after 30 years, and a bit later in the meeting, I will give you an overview of what the planning department is today after 30 years in Peggy's leadership. I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, Linda, I missed the name of the person at MEMA I should be calling regarding the Dugway.
Yep,
Pat Carnival?
yep, Pat Carnival,
Pat Carnival.
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
CARNAVALE, I believe. Did
Thank
you get the number, Will?
Yeah, I got 413-250-1927.
Yep,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I got one question.
Yeah, please.
Curious about, we received a warning from when Dummerston, in Vermont, let their dam release. I was wondering what is the communication and coordination effort between the state when something like that happens? But when it, we just received a notification and it just got me thinking, like, what, who are the organizations that communicate when that happens? And
We have the same question,
okay.
and I don't have the answer, but I hope to get the answer.
Okay.
Certainly NEMA was involved, but how it gets moved down the chain, I think as we are looking at improving emergency preparedness response, understanding that chain will be an important part.
We in Deerfield, it's a lot of, for us, Carolyn and I were talking with Dennis Anir in Shelburne, and just kind of all eyes on the river, like what's happening up north. And Great River Hydro is who we contacted, say, are you releasing? What's happening in the dam? They kind of told us, well, it's going into the spillway, but don't have a plan to release, but they had no capacity. So we just kind of followed it and just all day talking with the chief and everybody, just kind of keeping eyes on the river and what's what, where, and then, but contacts it for us is Great River or
Great Falls Hydro.
Great Falls Hydro.
Yeah.
So
Steve, I saw your hand up and then down.
Yeah, sure. So I was gonna ask a different question, but just to comment on this, I mean, I can say that, when we heard about potential for releases upstream, it was through our emergency management director, who is very active and engaged with MEMA. And so, I had a sense of comfort that there was a clear chain, and if that might be one place to look is if your organization does not have a specified EMD who is engaged and listening when messages come in to just double check on that front. That seems like the most direct line that we can expect. It may or may not always work, but that's what I would encourage people to review if you're not receiving notification. The question I was going to ask, Linda, is you didn't mention the decision to no longer work in the same capacity with MAFCO. At least I didn't think I heard that. And I was just, as I recall, about a year ago, we did the after action review and we had a conversation with the consultants that were hired. And I guess I was just a little bit curious about how this fits into that plan. And, strategically, I don't think it's something we talked about as an executive council. And I'm not really sure whether we should be, quite frankly, or not. But it seemed like it was significant. And I just wanted to ask you to comment on it briefly.
Yep. For those people that don't know what Steve is talking about, the COG receives a Health and Medical Coordinating Council grant. This is a 4-county grant that works on emergency preparedness with hospitals, healthcare providers, and local boards of health. In each of the 4 counties, part of this funding is to distribute money to public health emergency preparedness coalitions. So there's a coalition in Hampden County, Berkshire County, Hampshire County, and Franklin County. The COG has been the host agency, the staff to Franklin County's Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coalition, there were 2 issues there. Number 1, Department of Public Health has never really loved that because they don't like that we are the overall overriding organization managing these funds, and they find it kind of conflicting that we also act as the staff to public health emergency preparedness. But the other thing is the coalition itself really was reticent and hesitant to really pursue the recommendations of the after action report. They didn't necessarily support the after action report, which is a little disappointing, frankly, because they were actively part of its creation. And the COG realized that we really want to see emergency response and emergency preparedness move forward. We want to see the county learn from what happened during the pandemic, and especially the state's decision to forego local boards of health and emergency response. And so decided that really it was kind of in our best interest, in the COG's best interest, and the region's best interest to go to tell the MAFCO steering committee that we will go out to bid to find someone else to do their scope of work. And we will focus on the larger project of overseeing the Health and Medical Coordinating Council, but also the larger project of moving forward emergency preparedness in the way that our 2 after action reports recommended.
Thank you. Seemed
Welcome.
worthy of comment, that's all.
Yep,
Yep.
thank you. So any other questions? Or we will move on to the planning board update. Emily.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm on the Franklin Regional Planning Board. I'm the at-large member for the town of Deerfield, the rep to the council. We've just confirmed our nominations for 2024, so I'll just run through them really quick. Our chair is Jerry Lund of Leiden. First vice chair is Jennifer Gross of Wendell. Second vice chair, Charlie Olchowski of Greenfield. Julia Blythe is our clerk in Northfield. Mary Beth Chichester, Coleraine, this is our executive committee. Don Sluter, Whately, Mike Schaffer in Irving, Jeff Lacey in Shutesbury, and myself in Deerfield. So Peggy Sloan, as many of you know, kind of leads the Franklin Regional Planning Board. And so throughout this process of hiring, Jerry Lund is also going to be part of the process, just kind of help since I'm a bit new to the role here. So we're looking forward to that moving forward. Folks have already kind of shared the highlights that I've written down, because a lot of the planning board minutes or meetings are kind of sharing different activities that the COG is doing. Two that I've written down, really exciting, of course, the brownfield assessment. That Linda already mentioned, and then the SES report. I think kind of one of the big takeaways is the population decline that's expected is kind of a big hit, but simultaneously the housing needs will still be increasing. So something to really think about. Feel free to be in touch if you have any questions. I can take them now or at any point.
Thank you. Bob, I know you had a hand up when we were
Oh,
talking
sorry.
about river flooding and stuff. Did you?
I was just.
You had a comment?
The process for notification is probably written into your comprehensive emergency management plans.
Yeah,
So.
Yep.
That's a way to
good point.
perhaps think that's all.
Thank you. Great. Good. Okay, no other questions. So moving on for the finance committee update. Michelle,
Thank you.
welcome.
The finance committee met on July 13th and we reviewed the preliminary fiscal 23 closing numbers. As well as several requests for changes to the year just beginning FY 24. This budget was set in January and new information prompts true requests for increases, both of which finance committee can recommend without additional funding from the town.
Do you want, hang on one second. You want these slides up? You want the slides now, Michelle, and Claire?
Yeah, I was just gonna turn it over to Claire
I'm gonna get
to explain this to you.
1 second. Okay.
That's not the right one.
No, it isn't. No, actually, I think they're seeing the right one. Are you seeing one that says budget amendment? Steve, can you see
Yeah.
something that says budget amendment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Technology cooperating. Yeah, follow it up, mostly. There we go. Perfect.
Thank you, Michelle. I am Claire McGinnis, Director of Finance and Human Resources for the COG. This presentation picks up either from the very detailed green cover report that was in your packet, or the Finance Committee reports in the council updates, which were both very detailed. And so this is sort of written at a more summary level in hopes of less spoiling. Some of our budget was set many years ago. And as background, the council reviews the budget for the coming year every January, a full 6 months ahead of when we actually start the year. Although this timing works for all of your town meetings and being able to create your budgets, it is sometimes a long way for our planning purposes, and nothing is quite so static as that. The request this evening is twofold. First, the structural, with amounts that come out of one section to go into another, which will simplify the budget itself, and then increases, as Michelle noted, in 2 different spots. The administrative section of the council budget will now have 4 sections. If this is approved, will now have 4 sections instead of 6. The 6 sections of the budget, also known as the general fund, were set years ago and haven't been updated since. This request would consolidate the executive committee expenses into regional services and the benefits of admin staff and the benefits of surviving former employees of the county all into the section called the benefit expense pool. This will simplify our accounting data entry and be able and improve our reporting ability and our ability to answer questions like this. How much does a holiday cost you? Right now, that's not a simple question for me to answer. And if we can make these changes to the structure of the budget, it will be. The remaining 4 sections would be regional services, the benefit pool, planning administration, and miscellaneous and contingency. Next slide, please.
First today, I used the arrows.
So
Turns out to be it.
major, Again, the real detail down to every dollar is in the green report. But here are the major transfers that are both highest in dollar amount and most meaningful. Regional services would go down by 306,992. Moving time off and insurance expenses for a few of our employees to the benefit pool. The statutory section with these benefits of those retirees in the former county would go to zero, and that would again be a line item individual in the benefit pool, still visible in our budget reports, but not in its own section. And then the executive committee section, which consists of small stipend for the work that those people do for us, would go to zero, and that line item would be visible in the regional services section, again, as its own line item for wages. Next slide. New information since the vote in January. Again, as Michelle mentioned, we have two things we'd like your approval to increase. The first is continued support for First Light relicensing in legal, consulting, and wage expenses totaling $55,000. The source would be our own fund balance. We thought this would be mostly over when we made the budget in January. We didn't realize how long this would take and that we would have.
It will never be over, it feels like.
I pulled together some information for Linda at one point, and we've already been doing this for 5 years.
Wow.
Feels like 50.
When we estimated our sick leave expense for the FY24 budget, we were too optimistic, meaning that we took in a number that was too small. We asked for that to be increased by $60,000, which will match our actual experience in FY22 and 23 for that expense. And again, source our own fund balance. We will use fund balance for this 1 year and then recover this expense in future years through the indirect rate and revenues from grants. Questions about this? Very quiet.
Maybe the slide make a.
Back one.
Go back. Well,
Oh, I just wanted to read this.
did you jump?
You don't tell me.
Right, I don't actually know how to go back because it's
That's
literally not
fine.
letting me go back.
That's okay.
Wait.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
So this is fund balance.
Okay.
Okay, yep, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I move to accept the requested structural changes to the council budget, consolidating all benefit expenses into the benefit expense pool and moving executive committee stipend expenses to the regional services. The net effect is $0.
Second that motion.
Second,
Thank you. Roll call vote on that, or do you want to do both?
You want to do both? So
Let's do both and then roll call vote.
Oh, you wanted to vote?
Can you? I don't, it's up to you.
Okay. All right, I'll move to approve increases for First Light relicensing support and sick leave expense. Net effect. Okay. Fine.
So, and just another background, considering some of you were here when we voted the first meeting. When you vote the budget, there's a section for general fund, a section for people services, and a number for the total. So I've shown the increase itself, and then the two revised numbers for the total council budget.
Okay. Did I hear a second there somewhere? Yep, okay, great.
yep, from B.
Thank you, B. Okay, roll call vote
So this is one vote for this.
for both. Yep.
Okay. All right, Ashfield.
Yeah.
Buckland.
Yeah.
Phoebe, we should probably look and make sure nobody else came in. No, I would get a notice. Okay, excuse me. Coleraine,
Yes.
Deerfield,
Yes.
Irving,
Yes.
Gill, Polly,
Yes.
Leverett,
Yes.
Lyden,
Yes.
Montague,
Yes.
Northfield,
Yes.
Orange,
Aye, yes.
Shelburne,
Yes.
Shrewsbury,
Yes.
Sunderland,
Yes.
Warwick, Wendell, Wendell, correct, yes. And our regionally elected folk don't vote on this, but, the planning board does.
Oh, yes.
Emily,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, sorry.
Okay, passes with all in favor.
Great, thank you.
Fair, we're all done with all sides.
Unless you want to put word about the accounting program, which is the last slide.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Someday in my tenure here, and I have to say that for a really long time, we'll have a finance meeting without having to talk about the accounting program. So there's really no action required, but you should all know, we will be underspending this budget significantly because, 5 and 12 towns left the program. Staff has been reassigned and reallocated, budget's been rebuilt. It's, a 48% reduction, which doesn't require your vote, but certainly, it's part of my job here to inform you that we'll be underspending that budget significantly in FY 24.
I know 2 towns that left, what were the towns that left?
Ashland, Bernston, Leverett, Sunderland, and
Williamsburg.
For various reasons.
Not all the same, but
Yeah.
they're all different situations, but yes.
Probably one of the hardest programs, right? You have.
Not probably.
It's trying to be kind.
Your votes of support for those special projects.
Yep. Great.
Anything else before I either turn it back to Michelle or we give it back to the meeting?
I think we get to that.
All right, thank you very much for that. Thank you all for your votes. Personnel committee update, Jane.
Yes, thank you. This is the second time that we've discussed a couple of changes to the personnel policy that the personnel committee is recommending. The first one is intended to encourage strategic thinking on the part of our staff who travel for inspections. So it provides an option for them to count mileage from their home to the first place they'll be inspecting in the morning, if that is the case, rather than requiring them to come to the office and then count the mileage from the office to the place of being inspected if it's shorter from home. It's pretty logical. The other change that we propose is to restructure the way the FMLA section reads. It currently reads, the time is calculated in the calendar year. We learned from a couple of very sick employees who needed to use FMLA that structuring it that way can result in double FMLA counting right up next one against ending one calendar year, starting the other. We've lost about a half a year of personnel in the office. So yeah, the restructure is proposed to be 12 work weeks of unpaid leave during continuous 12-month period. So that gives us better control over the budget, better ability to predict what might happen. Those are the two changes. Are we doing a motion tonight to approve that or
Just because we want to see how many roll call votes we can do.
Might as well.
Yes, the
Double
personnel
one up anyways.
policy changes require 2 council meetings, a first reading, a second reading, and at the second reading, there can be a vote. So.
Yep,
So I would move that we approve the 2 changes proposed by the personnel committee, 1 to the way mileage is calculated, and number 2 to the way the FMLA time is structured.
Okay.
right.
Brian?
Yep, right.
Yep.
We'll roll call vote
All
then.
righty, Ashfield,
Yes.
Buckland,
Yes.
Colerain,
Yes.
Deerfield,
Yes.
Irving,
Yes.
Gill, Holly,
Yes.
Leverett,
Yes.
Lyden,
Yes.
Montague,
Yeah,
Northfield,
Yes.
I can.
Orange,
Yes.
Shelburne,
Yes.
Tewksbury,
Yes.
Sunderland,
Yes.
Wendell,
Yes.
and Jane Pierce,
Yes.
Jada Fukio,
Yes.
Emily Roberts.
Johnson.
Why can't I remember your name?
Very challenging name. Yes. Happens all the time.
Passes with all in favor.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's see, so. Special presentation.
Yep.
Yep.
So Peggy Sloan is retiring. She's been with us for 30 years. So between this meeting and the October meeting, we will have a new planning director for the first time in 3 decades. The charter assigns the hiring of a new planning director to the executive committee. So the executive committee has been actively engaged in reviewing the planning director's job description, as Kevin noted, we've been giving the executive committee current status and current projects of every program of the COG. And they suggested, since this is such a major transition for us, that you all should have a good sense of what our planning department is doing right now. So that's what this presentation is. And Phoebe, do you mind if I just say next slide? Okay, so you all know this, and we just talked about this. The total budget for the COG is about $8 million, give or take $1 million, depending on the year, because grants aren't part of the budget that you all approve. So that's the difference with what you just voted and our total budget. So we use about $500,000 in membership assessments every year, and we leverage that 16 times for the benefit of our region. Right now in FY22, we had about 66 full and part-time staff. That 13 of those are our planning department staff, and of the about 6 million total grants in 22, 1.6 million was planning department grants. So next slide, please. So what you're going to see is that we've categorized projects into distinct buckets, into the programs of our planning department. But we really want you to think about our work as being very interconnected. So when we are creating a climate resilient town that has good right-sized culverts and a multimodal transportation system, that results in a more safe and in a more efficient transportation system, which promotes health and livability, which then enhanced livability promotes population migration into the region, fingers crossed. Regional population growth fosters greater economic development, and economic development creates greater municipal revenues and capacity. So all of our projects are interconnected and kind of create this cycle. The other interconnection is that some of our projects in the planning department start as very large regional projects that result in municipal implementation. Some of our projects start at the municipal level, and we realize that the municipal project requires a greater regional response. So we have interconnection there too. So now I'll tell you, oh no, I won't. I will tell you about, these are all of the programs. You can move on.
Okay.
These are, and one more. These are all of the programs of the COG, and this is what we're highlighting as planning. And to let you know, planning is about 90% grant funded. Some of the administrative budget is used for our planning director, but the rest is discretionary or non-discretionary grants. Next slide. So now moving into buckets, starting with climate resiliency. These are projects that focus on climate resiliency at multiple scales. Our goal is to protect and sustain our infrastructure, our food systems, our forests, our rivers, our wildlife. And so we were just talking about last week's floods. What we know is river flows upstream to downstream, so that we need to make sure that the entire river, the entire watershed is being looked at on a regional basis to make sure that we are creating our watersheds and our river systems to be as resilient as possible. We've done the first in Massachusetts regional pollinator plan, recognizing that bees and bats and other insects are required to have healthy farms and healthy forest. And then, of course, the ever endless FERC relicensing.
Linda, can I
Yep.
interrupt? I'm sorry, but the slides are not advancing to those of us on Zoom.
Well, that's a drag.
Thanks for the heads up.
Well, that's weird, because it says it is.
So what slide are you seeing?
Are you still on the very
We're still
intro?
on
Yeah.
slide 1.
We're on the overview.
What?
Yeah.
Yep, right. So
I don't know how to fix that.
Why don't you escape,
Yeah,
stop sharing
I-
and try again?
Yeah, so I did just stop sharing. Now we're gonna try this version, see what happens. What are you seeing now?
there we go. We're
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
FERCog programs.
All
Okay,
right, that's great.
great. Okay.
Thanks for the heads up.
Now this is the one she was just talking about. Are you seeing a new one now? About,
Climate,
Do you-
climate resilience and land use.
All right,
Okay.
great, thank you.
It's like an.
So next slide, please. So local projects and climate resilience, we use those regional watershed projects and the regional river projects to then go in and help municipalities with hazard mitigation plans, municipal vulnerability plans, open space and rec plans. The regional pollinator plan, we're working with towns to do local pollinator plans, green communities, technical assistance and zoning. So moving next, I believe, is economic development. And our economic development efforts are designed to create a supportive environment for residents and businesses to prosper and to contribute to a municipality's ability to generate revenue. Our regional projects, our larger projects, are the Franklin County Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. This is federally required for us to be eligible for Federal Economic Development Administration funding. Regional brownfields, this is the $500,000 we just got, and the population projections working group. At a future meeting, we should probably show you the population projections for Franklin County from 2020 to 2050. It's really overwhelmingly scary, the precipitous decline in population that is projected for Franklin County, which will impact every aspect of our economy and our life and our schools, et cetera. And so we, the COG is working with regional partners and soon all of the towns to really think about a 5-year strategic plan to stop that from happening. And we have a statistic coming up that is mind-blowing. So that's examples of economic development, regional projects. Next, you already did the next slide, bringing it down to the local level. Examples of local projects is we work very closely with the Shelburne Falls Water and Fire District to get one-stop funding for the Bridge of Flowers, which will shore up the integrity of the Bridge of Flowers and add a new water main. We've done property reuse studies most recently with B in Northfield, the fire station project. And then we will soon start digital equity planning with the Massachusetts Broadband Institute. And when you get the survey from the Massachusetts Broadband Institute and you hate it, please remember, it was created by the Massachusetts Broadband Institute and not the Franklin Regional Council.
Little preview.
Yeah. GIS is really using our computerized data to create maps and to do analysis. Back in the day, when I first started working for the COG, GIS was really a tool for the professional staff to do data and analysis. And many of the tools now make GIS available for everyone and really has had a huge improvement on our work. So we use GIS to help FRTA with all of its scheduling and all of its route decisions. We are doing the watershed analysis, we're looking at housing, and one of the things we did is we worked with the towns along the Deerfield River to do emergency mapping and signage, and that work was just used to rescue a kayaker during the flooding. But bringing it home to make it more local, we've created an unpaved roads interactive map so that you can go to a map on the COG website and complain about what is happening to the dirt and gravel roads. And we are creating a database that we are sharing with MassDOT to know where our problem areas are in the county. GIS at the local level, as we are doing zoning and culvert assessments, we have assessed 7,200 culverts so far in Franklin County, which really helps all of you make decisions about how to prioritize Chapter 90, understand where the highway department should be concentrating their time and effort. It's been a great project. And then the other way that GIS is used to really get more engaged with your residents is that we have been doing story maps to show how Complete Streets is a program to make our road infrastructure more friendly to walkers and bikers and other users. And we're using story map to show current conditions and then how conditions can be improved. Housing and livability, this is the really scary statistic I wanted to show you. We're doing a regional housing study right now, and the consultant we hired to help us has discovered that we are decreasing in population of 1 person every 8 days in Franklin County. But because household sizes continues to get smaller and smaller and smaller, we need an additional housing unit every 5 days. And so that statistic is what we are using to look at the regional housing plan and how can we work as a region to build more housing, to recognize the constraints, but also how can we work as a region to really stop that 1 person loss every 8 days and really make Franklin County a vibrant region. Bringing that down locally, we have done local housing production plans. We are doing a complete neighborhood zoning review with some new federal funding. We help towns with CPA, both passing CPA, Community Preservation Act, and ideas of how to spend it, especially for housing. And help with American with Disabilities Act transition plans and environmental justice issues. Moving to transportation, I think.
Wait, John I have a question. Why?
Why what?
Why are we losing these people?
I think for a long time, it was because we didn't have broadband. So we've taken care of that problem after 25 years. But we are not attracting new people. When you look at a map of Massachusetts isn't growing very fast as a whole. But when you look at a map of where people are coming from and where people are moving to in Massachusetts, the growth we have is not in the birth rate. We have a very low birth rate. It is in immigrants coming from other countries. And the immigrants coming from other countries are staying within the 495 belt. They do not come to central and western Mass. And that's a problem because we don't have a low birth rate. We're aging. Unless all of us here can somehow magically have more children, which isn't happening.
You are of us. Hey, I'm looking around.
It's interesting. Where does the information come from? Where does the data come from?
Mostly the census.
I work take my select board hat off. In my other job, I work with families in Irving, Leverett, New Salem, Wendell, and Shutesbury. I'm seeing the baby boom. So I don't know if that's going to be extended or if this is sort of a cause of the pandemic. But in the programs that we have, and I keep track of families, children coming in, I'd say 4 out of those 5 towns are definitely going up.
I will say that the model that was used by Massachusetts was a pretty urban centric model. And so that we are taking the population projections with a grain of salt, that it's an urban centric model that really looks at large housing developments, large new housing developments, which we don't have. So we know that the projections are likely a little exaggerated. That said, we also know there has been stagnant population growth and a slow decline since 1980 in population in Franklin County. So maybe.
I've got something to add too, but,
I just want to note too that it sounds like there's no data available for climate refugees, and so
Right.
projections for that are really unknown as well.
Yep. And COVID refugees.
Correct.
we are seeing, to your point, we are seeing a lot of like the preschool or daycare is really swamped. There's a lot of waiting lists. So there are younger generations, I think, maybe starting to come out of COVID or who knows what, but not enough to keep up with kind of the loss of other generations. And I think a lot, just my personal opinion, I'm in the building industry and I see a lot of our land is locked up in APR. And if we don't open up some of our beautiful land, yes, but if we don't look at how we can get economic development on a larger scale, more businesses to open up and come and build here, so then build housing, we're just going to completely, we are going to decline, and we will not have the political representation or the land or the, you know, the bodies to and tax revenue to develop and
We have
improve it.
460,000 acres of state-owned permanently protected land
Yep.
in Franklin County.
What I was gonna say was that childcare, in addition to the stress that you're seeing from maybe the baby boom, we lost a significant portion of childcare during COVID that never came back. And that's also a reason people don't move here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, there's a lot of work we definitely need to do for sure. Bring in some business. Oh, what's that? Oh, yes, please.
Just
I'm sorry, I missed it.
one other note too, in Wendell, we're seeing a lot of houses turning over, or a fair number for
Mhm.
Wendell. And what's interesting is a number of those are being bought as second homes.
Yes,
So that's an interesting dynamic, you know, where houses are selling well above
yep,
what we would think reasonable as second homes.
Yeah.
And the people without children,
yes.
older
Yeah.
population. So
Seeing,
that does reduce the housing population for, right?
I think
that's in all of our communities.
yeah, it's,
Really, a significant impact for Shelburne and Buckland for sure.
Right,
And it's-
and some of it you hear is because we do now have high-speed internet.
and especially the Berkshires, so my whole territory is Williamstown to Stockbridge and Sheffield, and there is a ton of people that moved from second homes, moved from the cities, Connecticut and New York and New Jersey up to that area, but you know, have older kids or don't really, you know, they just, it's not as much young population for sure.
And they're pushing people out that wanna stay in the area.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
My house over in North Adams, I couldn't afford anything.
Yeah.
in this area.
Yeah.
Nothing against North Adams. but-
No, for sure. This is just a long drive. Yeah.
We also have a lot of them that are selling and it becomes a haven for students because we're so close to UMass. More and more rentals, amazingly now high number of rentals.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do for sure.
I think
Okay.
transportation is our
Yeah.
last. We work hard to make sure our transportation infrastructure is safe, efficient, equitable, and multimodal. We just completed our 20-year regional transportation plan. We do a lot of advocacy to expand passenger rail in Franklin County. We just received a rural Safe Streets for All that we are actually working with the two other rural regions in Massachusetts, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, to create a safe streets plan for rural areas. And once done, then all of you will be eligible to go for implementation funding. We do a lot of bikeway work and scenic byway work. And what's not up here is that we are also part of a statewide effort to map all of the trails in Massachusetts, which is important for us and for our outdoor recreation economy.
That's a huge economy here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Bring that down locally, that's traffic counts and speed studies and culvert assessments and complete streets, technical assistance and unpaved roads, technical assistance, et cetera. So here's our planning staff. We have 13 planning staff currently. And hopefully you recognize many of them. We've got some new folks that you may not recognize. And then just to conclude it and what to think about what we're looking for in a planning director, we really are trying to connect larger efforts to local payoffs and to create that interconnection feedback loop that we talked about, where climate resiliency work impacts transportation work, which impacts economic development work, which changes the population trends, and regional leads to local and local leads to regional. So we're looking for someone who is a strong systems thinker that can see the big picture, but also recognize when we need to get down into the weeds of specific town issues, that has or can adeptly build relationships with elected and appointed officials at all levels of government, and that can track and follow funding trends. And that's a really big one, is to really understand what's the new thing at the state and federal level, and how do we bring that home to Franklin County and to Franklin County municipalities. That's all I've got. Any other questions about the planning department?
Where?
Oh, now they're not there anymore.
Did we lose our group?
No, they're here.
Oh,
I can see them. I think if I shut all the,
I think we're done.
There we go. Perfect.
Great.
They're back.
Well, I think that's everything for our meeting. Any other questions or any other topics anyone want to discuss? Get out and enjoy a day without rain, mow a lawn or two.
Without
Maybe mow a lawn or
Without
10.
humidity.
Couple mosquitoes.
Couple mosquitoes, yeah, they'll be around now for sure. Dump your buckets, dump anything that's holding water. Great, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Do you guys want to do a roll call?
No.
Kyle.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.